Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Desiree DeMars, and I'm here today to offer a shamanic sacred symbols reading, sometimes known as reading the bones. And I'm here on a big sweater day. It's been cold here in North Carolina in the evenings, definitely. When the sun is out during the day, it's been absolutely gorgeous. And I wanted to just set up the framework for the session today, being that I already made an offering and said a prayer with intention for the inquiry today for information, insight, wisdom that would be the perfect and most divine information that would unfold in the perfect way and the perfect order as each of you views this in your own time and space. And so what I would like to share, the piece I would like to share though, in the preparation of the reading is just having you taking a few moments with me to ground, get centered, and then to blow your own intention into the basket of symbols. And then I'll do the throw so you can actually witness that and feel your own energies weaving into the pieces and the information that unfolds. So take a few deep breaths. Close your eyes and allow yourself to just sink down deeper into the chair, the cushion, or wherever you might be. And if you can, take a couple of breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, so you can allow the jaw to relax, which allows the throat, neck, and shoulders to relax. Beautiful. And with that cue, we allow the chest, the heart, the belly to relax. And in so doing, imagine that we're allowing this coherence between the heart, the gut, and the brain, opening that central channel within us so that we are bringing in the divine and sacred light from above, this divine masculine energy coming down and flowing around and through us all the way down to the center of the earth. Really grounding us into the divine feminine, into this molten iron core from which we would not even be possible living here if we didn't have this iron, which then of course wouldn't even be here except for the fact that we are made of stardust and this entire planet is intermingled with the stardust from clusters, from star clusters, the cosmos, these collisions that have happened in space. So just imagine when I say the divine masculine and bringing that energy down from the heavens, the sacred and divine, it is the elements from all that is that have collided and come together, come down to earth, created the environment, and in fact created iron, which was not present at the beginning of this beautiful earth's life. And with that element of iron came single cell organisms that have the ability to photosynthesize and take this light and create chlorophyll. And in so doing that, we have chlorophyll that brings oxygen so that we can breathe. So with the next few breaths, bringing this idea of gratitude and appreciation for the fact that we can take a breath here on this planet, this beautiful blue ball floating out in space, well, actually spiraling out into space, faster than we can even imagine, spiraling through time. And just think of the magic, the magnificence of this reality, of this understanding. And knowing that you are an integral part of all that is in ways greater than you may ever know in this physical form. So just really grounding in that, this earth, the feminine wisdom that we so need right now to bring balance, to bring this return of balance back into this time of incredible change, chaos, destruction, and restructuring of what will be needed next for us to evolve and move forward. So with that understanding, knowing that the energy naturally flows back up and is infinite and eternal as it flows through our toroidal field. And we know now that everything exists in a toroidal field. No matter what it is, there is sacred geometry being formed energetically in and through everything. And this is how we are all connected. So just imagine your toroidal field with that awareness getting bigger and bigger, expanding out even further and further, being energized by this element of divine white light, the stardust that has created us. And then, if you will, imagine this golden beam of light coming right through that central channel and activating, as if it were like a big bang within us, this explosion, this ignition of our divine fire that amplifies all of the energy centers within our body. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and again, white. All of our chakras open, fully functioning, front and back. Now activating our field with the rainbow of our own internal structure, our own internal field of light. So just notice if you felt a shift from the moment you sat down to watch this video, even up until now, with the awareness of these energetic fields and elementals that have come together to create this present moment. And then another deep breath. And I'm just going to shake up the symbols in the basket, open it up, and ask you to take 3 beautiful breaths and blow your intention into the basket. Of course, whatever way feels comfortable for you. Again, I'm going to shake it up. And now, I think what I'll do is I'll pull my screen down before I throw the objects so you can actually see them landing. And let me just adjust this a little bit. Pardon the the tech or the lack thereof. And we had a piece go flying off the cloth here. If I can find it. Oh yeah, here it is. Very interesting. Okay. And so the piece that went flying off or out of the basket is this beautiful spiral shell here, which represents rattle. So, and I'd say it landed about here. So I'll just place it in the field here so we can see it. And rattle, of course, represents the calling in. So I feel like because of the way it flew off and the way it landed on the floor, I would say it's like there's something greater here in the field or something much bigger that we're actually calling in. Something greater that than we realize is at play here. And I don't think, let's see, it's probably difficult. There's one little piece that would be closer to you, which is, if you were sitting right across from me in present time, frog, and he's on his back. And I think that's always fascinating to me when pieces are turned upside down or inside out or on their side. And for me, the frog is very representative of, let's say, or akin to being like the canary in the coal mine. Kind of this foretelling, this perception, a perception or an understanding of information or something that's coming in from the future even. And it can be a short amount of time or it can be a great amount of time, but you know, something down the road that's making part of itself known. And what's really interesting too to me about the way frog landed here with him being upside down is that there's something in the air about the importance of looking at things from a new perspective or a completely different perspective. Now, let's say if we were having a tarot reading, you might, this to me will often represent the Hanged Man. You know, looking at something from a completely new perspective or with a completely different lens, taking a peek at it in a new way, outside of the norm. And I would say then that relates to this idea of where rattle came in. And we said it was about, you know, what we're calling in. So whatever it is we're calling in, I would say what we're being asked to look at in the bigger picture right now is to look at it from a different angle than we normally would. Look at it from another viewpoint. Then where I like to go is several places, but one of great importance is, of course, the inquiry. And this is a piece of coral here. Again, I've mentioned before that it's representative of, let's say if it was us or you, and you're standing here, there's your feet, here are your hands reaching out, calling in like rattle, calling in. And we're looking at what is coming in. What is coming in when we make this calling, when we take this time to make an inquiry or use a specific intention with our thoughts. And what's beautiful about this is we've got a 2 here on this dice, and I would say that is partnership, co-creation, the 2. One arm is touching actually the 2. So, and on that same side, we've got mother. So your mother, my mother, oh, and this is fantastic. We've got a double 2. So there's something about partnership, co-creation, You know, that's interesting to look at and see what your inquiry was specifically and how that might relate to it. The feminine. This is also beautiful. What's also very close, we've got the heart chakra. Taking time for introspection or reflection, I should say. This is really more about reflection. So just reflecting on the past, which makes sense in the greater context of what I said earlier with rattle and frog, you know, really seeing a true reflection, taking time, taking a few breaths to really see something reflecting back to you. And within that, there was this small shell here, which represents this spiritual journey that we all are on, this evolution, this evolving process. And next to that, we've got the Angelic Realms. This is the great mystery, but it's turned upside down, which is fascinating. Again, another piece upside down. And then here next to this idea of reflection is the piece, it's a small deer toe tip, and it represents home. Now this kind of home, there's another piece that represents home, but this piece, home meaning, where is the home within? Where do you feel at home within yourself? Where is your true place or true home? And that's what this piece is about. So I would say, you know, what's really being, what's speaking to us here, these pieces are this greater or collective spiritual realm, spiritual process that we're in, the great mystery, facing down, meaning we're not seeing the whole picture, obviously. But also with home, what's very fascinating to me here is that we've got this little piece of red coral represents the base chakra. This represents the element of air, this crystal. And so, you know, we're looking at this idea of where is home within us? What does that mean? And I would say it makes complete sense that it's about aligning with that base, that foundation within us. And it's important right now with all that is changing to have some way that you feel grounded, literally and figuratively. So this greater journey that we're on is kind of what's underneath it. Oh, this is great. Is this little heart-shaped silver piece here is actually a dagger of sorts. It's about cutting away, releasing what no longer serves on this greater collective. I think it's time, you know, this is what many of us are discovering in this process of COVID and whatever is transforming the planet at this time too, energetically, is to underlying all this is this need or necessity in the greater cycle of things. In order to move forward and have something new, we have to let go of some of the old. And the piece that is in alignment with that dagger is about speaking your truth. And then this collective journey that we're on was right on top of it. So here I would say this dagger is pointing to the element of air or the mind, clearing the mind to have greater understanding of what your own internal truth is right now. What really grounds you into the home that you know, that you understand, that you truly are. You know, what you're really doing here on the planet at this time. And really giving yourself time to reflect on that so that the information that is coming to you or feels clear when all is said and done is that which comes from the heart. You know, that, you know, or that which comes from an element or an aspect of love, of divine love. And what also is beautiful about this idea of cutting away and releasing what no longer serves is we have horse and turtle right there. Now, horse, of course, is all about movement. I mean, this horse itself can be a symbol of many things, you know, of noble beauty, grace. But in my collection, I look at the horse more about where is it moving to, where is it pointed, you know, and where is it in relationship to other pieces. And I would say this piece about releasing and letting go is like, keep it moving, keep it moving. You know, just keep letting go. I know for many of us right now, it feels like, okay, all right already. I've been doing that for a couple of years now, maybe longer. And it just seems endless. But what I would say to that is that with this turtle being here, and this is a special piece that I placed in here a few weeks ago at the beginning of the year to kind of signify some special attention that I wanted to make to anything that it landed close to or that landed close to it. Because I had a project, or I have a project that I'm working on that I wanted more clarity about. But also, if we're looking in the larger context, since this is about the collective, I would say this is about looking at this collective journey that we are on, and it's all about moving away from that, you know, like moving out, moving into a greater field of possibility, of potential, of new beginnings, maybe, because there's actually not much right in front of it. So there's a nice little bit of space. And then this is really sweet. This is two ancestors, the blue being on your father's side or your paternal lineage, red being maternal or your mother's lineage. And these are two of the same pieces, which is fascinating, the same shape. And that's because they both represent a young adult, one on your mother's side, one on your father's side. The one on your father's side or your paternal lineage has the throat chakra next to it. And I think this is fascinating that we have two pieces that are circular with a hole in the center. And the coin is Uranus, the planet Uranus. This shell represents the body, like body, mind, and spirit. And then this small, beautiful violet piece of stone here is about the third eye. So what is here again, we kind of have this theme of the masculine and feminine aligning. And what is bringing them into alignment, or what is in that shared space, is having your third eye open, having being aware of what you're seeing. You know, this really mirrors this idea of reflection, no pun intended, but this idea of a deeper look, a greater look, a look aside from looking through the eyes and seeing a reflection, seeing what is underneath that. Because what is underneath that, I believe, I would say this is completely Uranus being right here at the heads or the top of these pieces, would be something sudden and unexpected. So in the physical world, just know this is the pattern. I'm saying this because it's been happening in the last several readings. And especially with clients, when I'm doing one-on-one readings, I mean, Uranus is just popping in places that are like, oh boy, you know, more change, more surprises. But I think this is the name of the game for the next year or two, possibly, where we're just going through these big transformations. And so things will feel sudden and unexpected, because they're reaching their tipping point. They're reaching the place or the time where their old construct no longer serves the greater purpose of this evolution that we're on collectively. So it's time to have deeper insight into what is happening or where we want to be. So these young adults, I mean, they may be people who are living in your life at this time, but they can also represent that part of yourself. this kind of young adult. Okay, you're just at this place where, okay, you've been around the block a bit, but now you are really seeking out, gaining deeper levels of insight, so that when we move forward, or when you are moving forward, you are making your decisions when, especially when something sudden and unexpected happens, you know, we are able to make a choice, a true choice for ourselves, not a choice that is, well, because everyone else is doing it, or this is what I used to do. But it's enabling us to make choices based on what we see on a deeper level, a greater level. Or what Frog was telling us was, you know, from a new perspective. What if we looked at it from a different place when something sudden and unexpected happens? What if we were to make a decision or glean an understanding about it and manifest that in our life from this place of a new perspective or expanded state of awareness? Now, this piece below these two ancestors here is a piece of shell, and it's facing down too, and it's representative of the idea of ceremony. Now, I think that's interesting because this here is about like the creative forces, this domino, the creative forces, it's facing down, and kind of that unknown, you know, when we are tapped into that place of the greater field, or the superconscious, I call it in my coaching work. And when we're tapped into that part of ourselves, the field of ourselves, which in fact, I would say this process in itself, in and of itself, the divination, the reading of the bones, the taking of time to create sacred space and grounding and expanding at the same time is really, it is a ceremony in and of itself. And so being in sacred ceremony and really allowing ourselves to be in this kind of great unknown, or the great mystery, which I feel like this is being mirrored here, this great mystery of what we know to be the truth and what we know that we want to let go of, and just be in ceremony and allow that to unfold. Because as you can see, there's nothing that it is pointing to. And that's interesting because this is a pointer, and that's what it's doing. It's just giving us direction. What's unusual about it today is that it's on its side, and it usually doesn't end up that way. But it's, I would say it's like these three rays of energy here saying ceremony in the greater context of this collective awareness or collective evolution that we're going through, is really pointing us toward looking into the greater space of things, looking out, or looking, you know, out, and that's relative. Out can be in when we're talking about reflection, which was here. This was like the microcosm of this macrocosm. And so when we are reflecting in, we are also seeing what is going on around us. And then what's beautiful about as this moves out here is that we have the divine feminine. And that's kind of where we started with mother, you know, our mother, the mother, and this is the mother, you know, the feminine aspect. And she's also, I see almost like the rays here pointing out, directing us, with our head pointing, her head is pointing out. And what's interesting too, let's see, is she front or back? She's hard to discern. She's slightly different on one side than the other. And I would say this, this is the front, this is the front, and this is the back. And she was like this. So I believe, so, you know, again, facing down, it's like this internal expression of these greater forces, giving us the impetus to look at things in a new perspective, look at them from the hangman's perspective, or from the upside down. So that is beautiful. And I wanted to also, before I went any further in this direction, is to say, you know, that we were calling things into the inquiry from this direction, because I do see, it seems as if really there's this greater spiral here unfolding. And we have the double twos, you know, this idea of co-creation, on multiple levels and layers. And then this piece, this beautiful bone, is about rebirth. And it is facing up wide open. It almost looks like angel wings to me. So it's like taking flight, being reborn. It could be the phoenix. And I would say it very likely could feel that way to you right now, like phoenix type of energy, that you're being reborn, because this is fire. So it's sitting right next to fire, almost in that little crook of the wings. And what is on fire, or I wish for all of you to be on fire, because I know I wish for myself on some level, is to really tap into this greater vision that we all from time to time, need or want to do, is to have the greater vision for those times when we're just being human and stuff happens. And we feel like we've lost the magic, or, things are just BS, just belief systems that no longer work for us. But, we need to replenish, rejuvenate, and rebirth this idea of our greater vision now and then, because sometimes it needs upgrading, right? And this stone here is about the chakra below the feet, which is really interesting. And the hands, below the feet and hands. So it's like the soles of the feet and the hands. It's something's being activated here in our chakras, in our hands and our feet, what is connected to the earth and connecting us to the heavens. So it's like the frequency, let's say, it's the portal for the frequencies that are coming in from above and from below, and coming into, energizing, igniting this vision that we have and giving it wings to fly. Now, what's beautiful about that is that we've got an ancestor, ancient ancestor on our mother's side, on the maternal lineage. We've got the ancient ancestors there, the drum, which is all about the heartbeat. I feel like it's just really amplifying this idea of synchronizing, aligning our heartbeat to the greater heartbeat of these planetary cycles, of these collective evolutionary cycles. And I would say, since I'm not going to go through a lot of detail, especially when I get in here, this is very complex. This looks very complex. But so what I want to give is a broader scope here in this reading, and say then, what this is saying to me is that this is all about community. And this beautiful piece of Elkhorn is about community and how we are nurtured by community. And it's right next to ancient ancestors on a paternal lineage, but our mother's side, the men, the great ones on our mother's side, the men. So we have this beautiful mirroring here again of masculine and feminine. And so we've got the ancient ones really supporting us with this idea of community that is so much greater than our own. Again, I think this mirrors this other, looking at it from Frog's perspective, and Frog is kind of out there looking at this actually. That is being reflected to us. So if that's a challenge, I would challenge you to just putting some time and energy into that thought. What is my community, and who is part of my community? But who is the greater community, the ancient ones, the ones that provided what is now here for us to even exist on this planet at this time? So what is this greater community that is here through the ancient ones, bringing insight and wisdom to us in ways that we may not often connect to in our day-to-day? We're too busy, we're too focused on other things. But when we take this time for some reflection, even if it's a breath or two, I just invite you to think about the greater community, the collective again, and how the ancient ones have influenced our lives, your life, and the lives of those in your community. So, and then just as we're moving up along this beautiful spiral here, there's a lot going on, a lot. So this would be a pretty extensive reading if I were to go into talking about all these pieces. So I'm just going to go with a broader scope and kind of look at how these pieces are configured here and how they're configured around the central point or the diamond. So what I would say about that, this is so fascinating. I feel like, because this is a common theme right now of reclaiming our power. No more gurus. I mean, yes, it's great to have a mentor or a teacher if we're seeking out some kind of structural information or an understanding, a greater understanding of something. But it's more so about, this piece here is talking stick, and this is our work. So it feels like the work that is really here for us right now is, making itself known that Saturn, oh, this makes total sense. So it's resting on Saturn, and this idea of talking stick, back to like what I said about speaking your truth. What's important right now in this collective experience that we're having evolutionarily is about speaking our truth. So even in that smaller sense, the power lies in speaking your truth. But in order to get to that truth, that's what we're being asked to do here right now, is look at these greater structures, look at what came before us, and then take the time to discern. This can be about discernment, this cutting away. It's not necessarily a negative thing. It can be about discerning and helping us to focus and clarify things. So it can be a beautiful thing. And then I believe what's right here is, boy, it's hard not to go down a rabbit hole in these, but this is the moon. And it's kind of mirroring what's going on now. We're just, it's a little bit of a darker time of the moon. We just came out of a full moon. And so there's less moonlight. So there might feel like, it might feel that way, like there's less insight or clarity in specific ways right now. But there's a beauty in that too, of just being able to accept that everything moves in cycles. And there is something here, part of this greater theme here is about what is not yet created. And that's what this little bone represents. It could represent a lost, a child that was lost through miscarriage, abortion, or death at a very young age. But most often what I find it means for people is something that is not yet created. So it's this beauty of like really not knowing what the form is going to be like yet, but just allowing this magical aspect of the moment to be in awe, to be in wonder. And then we have the heart right at the top of it, which is beautiful, which is a Celtic knot. I call it the sacred union of the self, or the sacred union of our self with source. And I know, as I said before, here's our little lizard. He's all about great transformation that's going on, big physical changes happening in the world. Mars, this represents the planet Mars and Jupiter. So a lot of forward moving energy, amplified. Things might feel really amplified right now. And rightly so, because they are, and they're new, and they're sudden, and they're unexpected, and so they're a little bit shocking. They might even feel traumatizing, and in fact they are environmentally. These sudden and unexpected changes that are happening with climate change can be completely life-changing for some, where we just had the Colorado fires, people lost everything. We're still having massive flooding, ice storms, and people are losing things through incredible earth changes. So there's this huge push happening. And then there's also this piece of like, oof, what's kind of hidden and not, might be secrets that have not come forward yet. They're just being revealed. I think we're finding a lot of that in health and politics right now. And what's interesting is this is Father. So as we move through the spiral, this little blue tipped bone is about Father sitting up, resting on top of Venus. And on top of that was this idea of the sacred. So what is it that you actually, what is truth, love, beauty, art, this Venusian energy kind of holding, the masculine, resting in the palm of this deep, deep feminine energy. And this idea of holding it sacred, I feel like that is really key right now too, is we have got to get the masculine back into a sacred place or more sacred balance. And then this piece is Pluto, which is another big whammy. I know we are all being influenced by some big Pluto, Plutonic forces right now. But what's fascinating about it to me is you've got Pluto and the key. So there's something really key, though, about this greater force that is pushing us forward collectively on an evolutionary level, us, the planets, all of the planets. And I'll just say briefly, I won't go into it, but if you have a partner or somebody who you're thinking about right now that is interwoven in your life or projects maybe that you're working on, the others, they're going through big changes now too, especially around home. So here's that other piece I mentioned that was about home. And this is the earth and the earth upside down. So it's like, yep, things are feeling pretty upside down, but it is a key piece. It's key. It's really important right now in seeing things more clearly. And when I look at the key, I always look at where's the lock. And this is fascinating that it's almost in an identical spot directly across from each other. So what is going on around the lock? Okay, it's like a fork in the road. We're at a fork in the road. We are wanting to be open and receptive. This is a little frond from a huge pine cone in an ancient forest. So it's about, what are we ready to receive? But what is hidden? What is underlying this? What is underlying, or what is what is hidden, locked up, unavailable in order for us to receive, in order for us to know which fork to take. Which fork to take to really get clarity when we're having these moments, giving ourselves this time to be reflective. Which way do we want to go? So I would say that's another great question to ask yourself, especially if you are making big decisions with the new year. What direction do you want to go in? And what's interesting about that is we have a small ancestor on top of that fork in the road that is saying, it's on the paternal lineage. So it would be a child, a boy. So, maybe it's about children or a child or the childlike aspect of the self or some aspect of yourself that you want to nurture. Maybe that's your question. And right now you're at a fork in the road with that. And you're looking for what is the highest, what is the best choice for me? And maybe that might be something that would give you some guidance. If you have a young child, a young child, or just pay attention, because sometimes what happens with these readings is there's a little bit of a foretelling here about what is to come. And so it's asking us just in a beautiful way to just be observers of the obvious. Just notice what is the obvious, what's on top of everything, even this idea of looking, making a choice of one or the other. What's the obvious? What's on top? What's at the top layer or level of this, and what is informing us in this decision? So back to this direction that we were going here with the sacred and the masculine, finding the rebalancing. What's beautiful in the crook of all this, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of ancestors here. But what's beautiful is at the heart, we have a double star. And this is kind of reflecting this double two, I would say. It's like our star nations. Again, when I asked you or mentioned this, this piece about the community, this is the greater community. This is the star nations that we are a part of. And this is Buffalo. This tooth here is about Buffalo being the provider. What is providing for us? What is, and I have to move these because they're so beautiful. Here's the sun. So we know the sun is really influencing our DNA right now and the planet. And so how can we allow these big changes, these huge, this big influx of light, excuse me, how can we utilize that in a sacred way here to support the planet and also bring us insight in our ancestral healing? I would say this is amazing. This feels like sacred geometry right here. We've got grandparents, grandmother, grandfather, grandfather, great grandparents, grandmother, red again being paternal or maternal, red being maternal, blue being paternal. So we have this interesting balance. This whole reading has had this beautiful flavor of twos, of duality, of balance, of masculine and feminine. Both of your mothers, father's side, mother's side, grandfathers, father, mother. Wow. And then the DNA, here's our DNA. This red coral represents the DNA. So big changes happening here. And a lot of emotion around that. We've got like a small Buddha here. This Buddha represents two different things in my collection. And one is, you know, not only the idea of Buddha of going within, but let me see if I can just give you a better view of him. But he was facing down, and he also represents the Black Panther or the Black Cat, you know, this kind of mystery, this great mystery, and it's resting inside this large shell piece of a nautilus. So that represents water and the emotions. So it's like all this huge, we're going through and huge ancestral healing experiences right now, whether we know it or not, as this DNA is being changed by the sun and these huge cosmic forces that are happening and pushing us almost, you know, this is what Pluto's saying. It's like, whether you like it or not, big changes are on the rise. And so it's very timely that this is moving us into new levels of frequency. That's what this shell's about. And this half shell is about our blueprint that we came in with. And so what is resting on top of that I think is fascinating is transfiguration. Transfiguration and second chakra. So it's like that rebirth thing that I mentioned here before, this idea of transfiguration. Something is literally changing maybe before our eyes. Maybe we are, maybe you are. Some days lately, I know I look in the mirror and I think, wow, who is that? Who is that person? And this pointer here, this beautiful little spiral shell, is all about that, like pointing inward. What look at this time of reflection is so important, to look into your own transfiguration. You know, and all the great religions and spiritual practices tell us that, you know, go within. The answer lies within. And then we will see it reflected in the world. And this is earth, water, and Pachamama. You know, it will all, when we go in and we actually witness the power of our own inner transformation, it is like a rebirth. And something is freed up. Something is flow. You know, things begin to, we come back into flow. And that's the beauty of the divine feminine and Pachamama, is that she's all about flow. She's all about cycles. You know, that is how she evolves, is through these natural cycles that are continuously revolving and evolving within us and outside of us. So with that said, I would say that's the gist of the reading for today. And it feels really beautifully reflective of what I'm seeing and hearing from other people going on in their personal journeys and in the world today. And when I mentioned this ancestral healing, it just made me take note to remind you all, and I'm going to tip my screen back up, is that what's coming up January 18th through the 21st is the Shift Network is having their annual Ancestral Healing Summit. And I don't know, lucky stars, graced by the invitation of being a guest speaker in this program. I and about 30 others will be bringing our piece of understanding, our way, our viewpoints, our experiences of ancestral healing and what it means to all of us individually to use as tools, and also collectively as a species, as humans on the planet. So I hope you engage in that. I'm going to encourage you to go to my website. You can click on the link there to register. And then when you register, you'll see there's other options to get bonus packages. And I myself am offering a bonus, which is a guided ancestral healing journey. And I believe it's about 20 minutes once it got edited down. We've got about 20-minute journey that you can listen to over and over. It's all about the wheel and the evolution of our ancestral rivers. So I just encourage and invite you to go to my website, DesireeDemars.com. You can go to the news. It's on the front page too. I've got a link to the Shift Network information. And I've also got a link and more information if you want more details about some of the other people, and a link you can register through my news page and read a little bit more about it there. So I would say that's kind of the highlight of what I wanted to share today with you. And just taking one more glance around, I think what I would like to say is that, and I'm going to tip the screen down one more time. Look down here. I did want to mention that because this is such an unusual configuration, this would be you or me, whoever is receiving the reading, this half shell. Inside of that, this is important because I've been hearing this a lot through one of the beautiful astrologers that I love to follow, and she and others are speaking of this too. Something's brewing and has been for a long time, and something big is going to hit the financial sector or structures, financial structures. So that's something that we're all affected by. something big is going to happen here. These are timekeepers. Yep, something, I would say in the next year, if I were going to, year or less. And then I will also add to that my understanding of discovering and deepening my wisdom and knowledge base about blockchain and what that means and what the blockchain is and what cryptocurrency is and how that's changing the world. It's also changing our finances. And what was so beautiful about this, on top of that, big changes coming that are going to affect us internally and externally. This is the shaman. So, or any, any healer, magical, mystical aspect of support that you get, or that healer within, which I like to call, you are your own medicine. I say, we all are our own medicine. We are our own shaman. And if we so decide to tap into that. And this is Eagle Condor on top saying, pointing toward this beautiful heart, this turquoise heart, which is about soul retrieval or a soul remembering. This is what I find often is people who've been doing a lot of work throughout their lifetime may not need a soul retrieval per se to bring a part back, but it's more about the energy piece. It's about the soul remembering some aspect of itself and then expressing it in the world. This is Mercury, and then taking flight with it. Remember, we talked about that at the beginning here with the passion being ignited and this rebirth or the phoenix. And here we have the wings, the wings on this coin of Mercury, or the wings on the heel of Mercury, saying, take this and move forward with it. Dream big and then fly with it. Fly into the greater realms. That's what this is also about, this beautiful golden basket. It's about these higher frequencies of vibrational information or understanding. So with that little PS added, I hate to make these too long so that people lose their interest in following it, but I just felt that was important to add to the reading today. So with all of that said, and again, you can go to my website, DesireeDemars.com. You can find out about the Ancestral Healing Summit and sign up or register through my link, and you can find out more about bonuses. And that's about it. So thank you everyone for joining me, and have a peace-filled day. Aho.